I went and turned on the recording for this, so everybody who didn't show can actually take a look at it. So, like I said, there's been a lot of people saying that they could, but the last minute can't attend this one. So we'll go ahead and press on with it. And like I said, it could be a little bit informal. We only have about 6 people on the actual call this time. I think last time it was quite a bit larger, actually. So following a little bit from what I was talking about last time, is there's kind of this assumption that there's been work in the database to keep things ready for reporting. And the hard part about it is at the end of the year, we get a lot of calls. That's literally been what's been going on for the past month or so, is people calling up saying, hey, we need to run it into your report to do X, whatever X is. And usually it's too late because all the data has to be coded in the system. So that was the conversation last time. This time, I'm going to show a number of reports, mostly gauging at the end of the year, kind of the questions that we get, and focusing on those particular reports. It won't be all inclusive because there's a lot of other stuff we can do, but the main thing is just the basis of a lot of the conversations that we have with folks. So, and it might even get a chance to show you a couple of new things too. So we'll kind of dive into that as we get a little deeper into this. But anyway, small number. If you have any questions or anything like that, just speak up, I guess. I'll try to watch the chat as well. Not as good. My helper today actually got busy because, well, we're overloaded in support answering questions. So it's just kind of the time of year that we're in at the moment. So let me see if I can get the chat up as well. Okay, I am ready. Okay, real fast, just starting anywhere. And where I like to start with reports when I'm talking to anybody really is the old basic My Order Summary report, number 2. So My Order Summary report, the old one, it works. There's a few things that it does that catches people off guard. Namely, it doesn't show untransmitted orders if memory serves. But the new one, Moser 2, pretty much operates as you, well, as most people expect anyway. Every so often you get someone that wants it to do something else. But this is the one where I really like everyone to start when it comes to reporting. But I'm going to show you some other ways of using it you may or may not have thought about. And it's actually the way I like to use the report in a number of cases. So anybody who's seen this, you pull it up, you hit update, and it shows you the numbers. By the way, this is a test database I threw together, a bunch of random orders and stuff like that. But a couple of things I like about this report, especially at the end of the year. So at the end of the year, there's usually questions that come up of, are we coding the work groups on our jobs? So for those of you that have multiple territories, that's a common conversation we have. Is like, well, what happened to, in our case, maybe Mississippi? Well, we're not coding the orders from Mississippi. So what I'll do is under rows here, I can actually flip that over to work group, hit update, and that was an issue I had in my sample database. I actually have like 4 or 5 different work groups I was trying to show, and when I was creating my sample data, I totally forgot to add in the work groups. So that's a common use for this tool, Moser 2, is to simply go in and find the orders that weren't coded properly. And there's a lot of conversations I've had with folks just to get in here and take a look at this periodically throughout the year. The other part that's kind of nice about this is if I click on a month, it'll bring up a listing of orders that are underneath that particular one. And then I can click inside that order, just double click on it, and it should bring up that order. Yep, there it is. Took it a second. But at the end of the day, it'll pull it up. So now I can actually go through and do the tools, change work group, or whatever it is I need to do to fix that transaction. Because that's just commonly what ends up happening with Moser 2 and the start of the reporting season. Just last little run through the data to make sure it's good, assuming everybody at least helped you out and got things headed in the right direction. So hopefully it's just a few fixes. The other thing that's common on this, and I'll keep on the work group part because it's a conversation I had the other day with one of our customers, is they had work groups and then they wanted to go by sales account or customer. And I'll go by sales account on this one because they're trying to find out why certain people were showing up in the wrong work group. So I have Bradley, Brian, Demo, Tony, and so forth, all these people in here. And then I can have all my work groups down the side. So if I have a salesperson that only operates in one area, one territory, and they're showing up somewhere else, that's a good indication I have some transaction or orders, the case is, that are coded improperly. Again, click on it, open it up, fix it. So anyway, use this tool creatively by changing the columns and rows to help you out as far as just making sure the last set of the order data is correct. And you can do this throughout the year. There's no reason why you should wait until December when the owners are asking for the big reports to be run. So speaking of owners and big reports, another way that I see this used a lot is and people don't really or actually people forget about it, is I can change this whole thing around a little bit and show month as my rows, okay? And what I'll do is I'm going to flip my columns to year. Now, one of the limitations on the old report was you were limited to, I think it was like 12 months or something like that, or 12 years, which was an issue for some of our customers, actually more and more of our customers now. So what I'll do is I'll show all my years here. And this is, again, a bunch of sample data I threw together. Randomly creating orders throughout the years. But what's nice is the owners, you can sit down and go, okay, well, here's the volume that we have going up and down over time, and just kind of see what's going on here. And you know, I'm one of the owners here. I'll actually run this just so I can kind of see what things are going. So I might see one month that's getting a little low and I'm a little worried about what's going on, but I'll take a look and see if there's a little bit of a seasonality component going on or whatever it is, just so I can get a feel for what's going on business wise. And believe me, over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of conversations there on that one. But the main thing is this is just a nice way to kind of see what's going on. You can drop to the bottom here and see, well, it's about a $500,000, give or take. You know, middle here, I guess we grew a little bit, you know, this little test database, and then we're off a little bit. I think this thing's a little closer to truth than what I thought. Although that used to be a little lower. Anyway, this is kind of just a nice way to turn the data, but you can actually go a little deeper into that. So I can go down here and select this as well, either doing a select here, or what I like to do because I'm lazy is I'll stay with maybe manufacturers. So I'll take a look at the manufacturers over time. So in my case, it's usually customers, and maybe pick either a customer or manufacturer, click on it, lock in that factory or customer or sales account. You can do this with sales accounts as well, and then flip that back over to month if you'd like. Now this is a nice little report that shows basically what that one factory in this case is doing year over year. And you can see if there's an issue popping up. Maybe they're starting to, not be as good, as far as the company is concerned as they used to be. So nice little report, lots of little tips and tricks in there using selects. One other area to note is a lot of the questions I get as well is like, it's wrong. Okay, I take a look, well, what do you mean by wrong? Well, it's high. It's like, okay, well, is it high? And then eventually we'll go through and we'll grab the transaction and find out, okay, yeah, it's a spec split. So basically you're getting credit for it and splitting it with, maybe somebody in the Northeast that has the specifier. That's what this is about. So you can actually flip from sales to territory sales. So that's going to basically just lock on to the sales that you get credit for on this. Earnings, again, territory credit, instead of showing the complete earnings. So that's one way to adjust this. That's usually the same anyway. But anyway, that gives you the ability to show exactly what it is you're getting as far as money, and not the entire amount that's on the table, so to speak, do that transaction. It's your take of the order as opposed to the entire amount. So anyway, like I said, small group here. If there's questions, go ahead and ask me. I'll keep an eye on the chat, but other than that, you can just speak up, just yell at me, I guess. Other than that, any questions on the Moser 2 report? Real simple. Most people know about it, but it's got a lot of little tricks in there. And close out of that one. What I wanted to do next is kind of bounce around just a little bit. And one of the big things that we talk about at the end of the year really is quote volume. And we do have an old report. It still gets used a little bit. Tools, under projects, reports. And it is the, I think we actually moved it. Nope, we didn't. I guess we did move it. We used to have one in here that was basically the hit rate report. I'm just not seeing it today. But to be quite honest, I actually guide most people away from there now anyway. The main thing is everyone has what we call the dashboard. You can click on that. And by the way, there is kind of a bug in there. It may take you to a browser. If that's the case, just holler at us. We have a bit of a workaround that can get you back into the screen. But what most people are looking for really is a win-loss report and the ability to drill into it and look around a little bit. And that's where we went with this. I'm seeing people do a lot of really nice stuff with this win-loss report now that has really kind of stunned even the developers here going, wait a minute, well, you can do that with this thing? And here's what I mean. So when you're setting up a tile, if you haven't been in here before, the main thing is you begin by clicking on this 04 dashboard thing. It pops up a little deal here. By the way, if you have the web version, you can do it on the web too. That all works. But once I'm in here, I can go under tiles and I can create a tile. And it's the win-loss report that I want to focus on. So I can give it a name, but here's the things that I find that people are kind of surprising me with. And one of them is I can basically set this min and max value based upon the column that you normally quote out of. And it's been kind of interesting to watch people go from, maybe $1,000 to $50,000 and call those small orders and just find out what your hit rate is. Then 50,000 to 100,000 or whatever your mid-size quotes are. Maybe 100,000 and, on up to $500,000 or whatever. And what's been interesting with the conversations I've been having with folks is that the hit rate will vary based on the size of the job. So all the outside sales force really like paying attention to the big stuff, but the volume and where you can really pick up some revenue company wise has been kind of in the middle here. So that's been kind of an eye opener for me anyway, because I wouldn't have expected it. And I think some of the owners out there I'm talking to didn't expect it as well. The other thing that's kind of nice is you can use the original bid date versus just the current quote. And the reason why that's important is, as you know, you may be quoting something for a while. This is going to go back to that original quote date as far as laying this out in time-wise. And that helps you identify whether you're doing better with the jobs you've been working for a while, or maybe it's kind of the stuff you're requoting right now is starting to change a little bit. But generally, the consensus is to use that original bid date because it shows that, hey, I've been working on this for a while, and it takes that first date in Oasis, that first quoted date in Oasis, and uses that as far as when to organize your hit rate. So anyway, something to think about there. All right, I'm going to go back to my existing one out here and kind of drill into this. So what's nice is this thing will update, I believe it's weekly. Actually, we may have switched that to daily. It's something I have to look up for you. But what's nice is you can come in daily and take a look at this thing and find out how you're doing. So again, this is a lot of sample data in here. It doesn't mean a whole lot. But I do know that this number 28 here is correct because I was trying to get a hit rate that was around 30%. So I've kind of baked that into the random data we put in there. So that is exactly what I expect, or pretty close to what I expect there. But the main thing is this shows you exactly what's going on. So I actually use this over here in our company because we're more orders based, and we just don't do the quote volume most agencies do by any stretch. But right here, you can see what's going on as far as your hit rate. So we're winning basically 28% of the jobs here, and it's down a little bit. Now we don't have the actual down number. You have to drill in to see what's going on there. The loss count, well, to be quite honest, and everyone asked me about this one, was like, well, I can't run a win-loss report because we don't do the loss stuff. It's like, well, so the main thing is it would be better if you went through and had a process to identify lost and abandoned, but most people don't, and they get a lot of value out of this. And the reason for that is just generally the way Oasis works. So if you follow the process of doing new bid like and having just one last bid that has all the factories on it, and then you convert that to orders, then it will take care of all the process for you because it's the win number that you're most interested in. The unknown is basically going to essentially be lost is one way to look at it. So it's up a little bit. There'll be mixed in some stuff that is not really lost. It's just something somebody quoted and they weren't real serious, abandoned, if you will. But anyway, let me click into this and drill in a little bit more. Now, this is the way it looks like in the GUI version. I'm going to switch over to the web version, just give you a little bit of a contrast here. But the main thing we want to do in here is just give you a little bit of information about the counts and the values as far as what's going on there. And then underneath here, it splits it out different ways. So you can take a look at the the different factories and how you're doing win-loss rates on there. And again, in the old legacy GUIs, what we're calling this, it's going to look basically like a tab. a whole bunch of columns and spreadsheets, if you will. You could print it, which is kind of nice. It gives you a little bit of an output there. Vertical market. Well, let me talk on that here a second. But under manufacturers, I almost forgot something here. So the win count. So it kind of gives you a count. These are the jobs that particular factory is on. The percentage associated with the jobs that factory is on, whether you're winning them. The value associated with it, and then the value. So we do. That's one thing that is nice. You can take a look at the count versus the value. Now, again, this is sample data, and it's going to look pretty much straight across or pretty close, because it's essentially the same job getting repeated multiple times. But in your database, it is kind of not interesting, I would say, to see, okay, well, the win rate is a little high, but the values higher or lower as far as what's going on there. So the other area that I'm getting a lot of calls on is either ranking or verticals. That's become a biggie. Now, obviously, work groups for the groups that have multiple offices has been a lot of conversations too. But the ranking, it's been, again, this one's been kind of actually, I got this one wrong. Pure electric. I'm going to have to let them know it's a bug. So on the other version, I'll show you here in a second, the rank's actually a rank. So it looks like they got a little bit of a bug here. But the main thing here, oh, no, it is correct. I'm sorry. It's just we have something weird going on here, but unassigned, and it's again this test database. I'm doing some weird stuff in here, but the unassigned and none selected, and what I'm supposed to see in here is basically whether it's a one party, two party type thing, or if it's basically just the old rankings of unassigned and others. So I'll show you what that means here a little bit. But the vertical markets outside of ranks has been really the big one. And what's nice here is it'll actually identify here as, again, it's a lot of weird stuff in here, but you'll end up with office and some of these other items in here that will actually show the different vertical market that it's in. So yeah, this is kind of odd too. I'm gonna have to ask them about that one. Let me show you the web version because I know that's up. So again, this is the only difference here is we're using the web version here. Same tile, same data, same everything else. We're just splitting it out in a nice, more pleasing format there. Because again, the web kind of lends itself to that. But what I'm wanting to do is drop over to the rank real quick. And that was the issue that I had on mine, is I only have the unassigned one in here. And I didn't set up my data properly. So I can't really report on commercial versus hospital or anything else. But that has been the biggest conversation I've been having with a lot of folks. I'm sorry, not a rank. I just looked at vertical. Here we go. Same thing. I hadn't set it all up. But that is the conversation we've been having with folks to find out how they're doing within each specific market there. So sorry, didn't set up my data quite right there. So it's kind of doing some weird stuff today. But anyway, that works very well. Again, you can flip it over by quoter, but usually sales account is where we see most of it. And I didn't set up any of my projects with sales accounts on there. So the main thing is if you identify who's getting credit on that job, we can actually identify how they're doing salesperson by salesperson. This is off the win-loss reports there. So the other thing you can do on these, it's real nice, is you can set up basically one of these little tile things and give one to each one of your outside salesperson. So then they can see how they're doing. Basically daily it updates. So that one's real nice. All right. So that's basically all, mostly out of that 04 dashboard right there. And that's on the quoting side. And that's what I was trying to do, is show a little bit of quote information out there. Now, let me stay with quotes for a second and show a little more basic report, but I still get a lot of calls on this one as well. And just to give you a little bit of a bird's eye view here, even on this one, you can flip this over and identify let me see, specified project specifiers, top 50 specifiers. Sorry, I had to read that a little bit. And again, it shows you basically how your different specifiers are doing with the jobs that they're associated with. And that's nice to see. But as you start drilling into some of this, what we want to do is provide a couple other ways to get a little deeper into it. So there I clicked into it, and it's going, it's only showing me the jobs that are associated with that one specifier. And again, there are other specifiers on here. I can flip to manufacturers, which is kind of nifty. That's kind of nifty. But at some point, I'll be talking to somebody and they're like really wanting to drill in and see the data behind the information there. And that's where you basically have to go in And under projects, we have this nifty thing called customizable quote listing. And I like to use this one the most, really. And then I can go in and do a selection here just to see the quotes associated with this. Now, anytime you have a project or doing a quote report, you really have to do these quote statuses, okay? But in this case, I'm wanting to take a look at basically anything that's quoted and ordered. Those are really the two I'm going to look at here. So this one really doesn't help me too much. Buy doesn't help me too much. Submitted, you could argue that one, kind of bite my tongue here a little bit. I'm going to focus on ordered because realistically, this database will only have ordered. But you might take a look at pending as well, because that will show you jobs that you basically are working right now, getting ready to close out. So anytime your quoters send out breakouts, it'll switch it automatically, order pending. And then when you get the order in, it'll show ordered. Okay. So ordered versus quoted, which is fine there. I'm going to group that here in a minute. And I'm going to expose what's going on. I'm going to pick a specifier out here because that's really what I want to do is drill into a specific specifier. So I'll go to parties, actually specifiers, and I'll focus on somebody. Just go with the architect here. And hopefully I got some data coded there. So main thing is I have that particular specifier. I have these statuses. And oh, by the way, I want to go for a specific time frame. And again, if you're talking win-loss, or if you're taking a look at what's going on with somebody in quotes, my recommendation is at least back up a quarter, because it takes a month or more sometimes to close out a job. So you might as well just let it settle down by at least 30 days. I like 3 months, but again, that depends upon the conversation I'm having with somebody. So what I'll do is I'll go in under the bid date, and I could use the original bid date as well. But I'll just do, I'll do original bid date, I guess. I'm going to start with last quarter. Actually, last quarter. I'm going to go for last year, actually. So I'm starting at the beginning of last year. So that's beginning of 2020 to last quarter. And that will give me basically 30 days-ish, almost 45. No, it's almost 60 days. I'm sorry, we're into December already. I'm losing months. So, or you can go in and pick your actual dates. But again, this is just an example project here, or example quote report. Grouping, and all I want to do here is just go by status. So quote status. There we are. So give me two groupings, one for basically quoted and the other one for ordered. And I can pick all kinds of columns out here, but all I really want to do is just simply drop that into a PDF. And that's one thing that happens this time of year is people get used to running a lot of reports in print preview, unless you're on the accounting team. You kind of know what I'm going to say next, because some of the reports get big. The size of the print preview really can't handle it. The bigger reports is what I'll say. So print preview is great for small, quick reports that are maybe a couple of pages long, or a PO or a quote, but they're really terrible if you're going to drop 20, 30 pages into a PDF file. So what I'd recommend is, if it's going to be a big job or a big report where you think it might be, go ahead and drop it to a PDF file. It doesn't take any longer, really. But if it is big, it will make a massive difference for you. So let me just run with what I have, although I have a particular here. I like having a sort by project name just for argument's sake. And you'll see my project names are kind of bogus here, but it's what I typically do with customers. So we'll do print. That's fine. So, and I got nothing. Figures. Probably has to do with the way I did the sample data here. Oh, there's what my problem is. So I'm trying to do original bid date and bid date. The probability of those being together, especially with this database, is kind of low. So that is one error I just did, and I've done this before actually. Make sure you're using bid date or original bid date, not both. So let me just reset that. I'll go with last year. Last quarter. And okay, let's try that again. Much better. All right, number one thing to note, all the closed bids are not showing because I used order status to get rid of everything that they've requoted. So if they're doing everything properly in projects, doing a new bid like and closing out the old one, this is going to work fine. If they're doing a new phase like and keeping up with the projects, it'll work normally. And if you're converting orders from quotes, it'll work normally. And probably the last thing that I see people do that really cause all kinds of reporting issues is every so often I'll get someone that really wants to create a bid for every single factory that they're creating and that's on the job. And that doesn't make any sense. You just have them call us and we'll show them a better way to do that. But the main thing is now I get to take a look at the project names. I get to see what's going on here and if you will, audit the data. So I can count it. I can take a look at the values and really get a feel for if the win-loss report's working for me or if I just want to see what's going on for whatever reason out there. So quoted, looks like I don't have ordered in here. Again, my sample data is just kind of bogus. It has some weird stuff in here. But I do get my grand totals there and it looks pretty good. So I know why my sample data is broke, but it's hard to explain. But I won't get any ordered in this particular database. It's just the way I did things, which is bad. Okay. All right. The other thing you can do that's kind of neat on these reports. So if that looks good or you like running them this way, you can actually flip this over to show totals only. It's just a great way, again, to actually use preview for one. But the other thing it does do is it does give you the capability of just showing a quick little deal in there. Oh, it does have ordered. I faked myself out. I'm kind of surprised it does have ordered there. Let me flip it back the other way. Ordered, yep. Quoting. Yay. All right. My apologies. So, all right. That's quoted. Simple report. And there are a lot of other little things that you can do inside of here that's kind of nice. Another one that I see some folks do is instead of grouping that by or selecting a specific specifier, is you can flip it the other way. And I'll show you a couple other little tricks here. Is instead of actually selecting the specifier, I'm going to remove them. And I'm going to group by. Then you kind of have to decide which one you're going to do, or if you do them both, you end up with a lot of data here. So I'll show you the reason why it's not the greatest, but it works as far as going out with specifier. Drop that into, nope, I'm just going to do show totals. Okay. And obviously, I'll mess something up here. But there have ABC distributing by ordered and on through. Quite sure why those are all zero. Oh, I know why. Oh. My database doesn't have the influence stuff in there. So long conversation on influence. If you're interested in that, let me know. My database isn't using influences, so is all zeros. That's a deeper conversation. But the main thing is if you do a filter, adjust values, it's going to try prorating the numbers between all the specifiers that are on the job. I don't use that feature in this test database, so it zeroed everything out. Basically, I take off the adjust values and it'll show me numbers. So if you have any questions on that as you're running reports, give us a call because we answer a lot of questions there as well. But it looks like right here, basically by order, it looks like ABC distribution right here. Looks like we're good there. We do have duplicates out here because again, ordered versus quoted, and it's trying to show the data here. So this is going to be the total for ordered. This is total for quoted. This is everything. So it looks kind of odd in this view, but that's exactly what we have here. So it is correct. So it's just showing totals. Okay. Now we did do one thing that did change things up a little bit here, and because of the way I'm doing some few things, it probably won't show up real great, but I'll do it. Let's go to projects and do reports. Summary report. So basically I went from customizable quote listing to the summary reports here. And this one I'm hoping to expand on as we go forward, because there's a couple of things that are nice about it and a couple of things that are kind of odd. So the first thing I'm going to do is run this by direct customers quote summary, and I'll go off of basically I'll use the sell value here and I'll just hit update. And it should show me this year, which is kind of nice. And it's going to group it out by each one of my distributors. Okay, works great. The specifiers does work, but I end up with one scenario here. Let me see if I have it in this database. Specifiers all. Yep. So again, well, two things on this one. First of all, I have some unassigned issues out here that pop that out. But because I don't use influence, I can't use the report. So that's the only downer right now, is I'm trying to figure out how to get us to where we can actually turn that influence thing on or off. And right now we can't do that. So without influences, that's the one downer about this one. So, but you're still not out of luck on this. If you do use influence, and like I said, and the folks that do this really seem to be using this report and liking it, because you can flip between that and kind of see where things are going for this year, or go back a year or two. Let me flip back over to distributors and show you one of the things nice about it. And I'll show you the old report that you can still use if you do not use influence, like I don't do in this database. Customers, date. So again, this is all my quoted items out here. Selection, you may want to add that in too, to pull out what you don't need. So maybe by a specifier, that does work, by the way. But what I'll do is month of monthly, and again, I'll show you how you're doing year over year. And again, this same reports in orders and invoices as well, which is kind of nice. Main thing is it's locked on January of 2021. That's the main thing it's doing right now. So you will want to adjust this. But the current month, January, and this month last year, again, January, so that'd be 2020. Year to date, that's still going to show year to date based on that. So it's still back in January. And last year to date, but again, based on January, it shows me my year over year change in total last year. Again, real nice, even with quotes, okay? But the main thing is I'm in December, and I'll probably want to be looking at November. So I'll hit update. And now this month will be November of 2021 and not January of 2021. So that's the one little gotcha on this thing. So kind of neat, kind of a little different here, and works pretty good. Other than the fact the specifier part, one that a lot of folks need, requires you to actually use a different report right now if you don't use the influence concept. So, any questions? Okay. Like I said, I'll show you one other report here in a minute at the end. It still works on all these. So. All right, orders. Again, a lot of the same stuff here on orders you've had in the past. So I showed you my order summary report. The customizable order listing, this one, most people use, and looking at a few of the names here, I know I've already talked to at least two of you on my order summary report, or on the customizable order listing. My main thing is, if you have questions on this one, give us a call. It's probably the most used report in the system. But the main thing is you can do a lot of the same stuff in here. And at the end of the year, a lot of the conversations we end up having with folks has something to do with taking a look at specifiers or salespeople or something like, just trying to figure out how things are going or how things went through the year and getting at those details. That's where this is important. So you get a number on some report and try and figure out how in the world the system got that data. You can usually go in here and find it, and it usually has something to do with getting the time frame right. That's usually the first thing I talk with a lot of folks about. So I'll set my time frame to, I don't know, this year, that'll work. And then I'll turn back around, maybe split it up by specifier. Again, that's a lot of the conversations I'm having right now. So as a matter of fact, I'll do that on grouping. Now, one thing that I have seen a few folks do is they'll put all their specifiers in, and then they'll do a grouping by specifier. You don't have to do that. So the main thing is identify the time frame that you want to bring the orders back, and then let the system split it up. So you don't have to, if you're trying to omit something, then you basically do a selection is really what it boils down to. But I want all the orders from last year, or I'm sorry, this year. And then maybe I'll want to remove a few, maybe by order type. So, going to more, let me see. order type. And some people just want project as opposed to stock or something like that. Again, inside of Oasis, if you convert a project to an order, it's going to stamp it as project. If you just create an order in the blue, it assumes it's a stock order, although I do have a number of groups that have a good process in place. If you quote a distributor a stock bill of material, so hey, here's how much it's going to cost to fulfill stock and keep up with it for this year, whether your prices for this year, they'll create a project and they'll do a new order out of that every time. And then they'll flip the order back to stock to make sure the reports are updated. So just think of that for a minute if you're having to deal with those types of issues. So I'll just focus on project orders for this year. I'm going to take a look at my specifiers on there. So I don't really have to select any. All I really have to do is go to grouping, go down to specifiers. And by the way, you can get very specific on here. You can run it by just architects. I'm just curious about architects. I don't really want to do the rest of, all of them per se. Hit OK. And just because for most of you, the number of orders will be quite a bit. As a matter of fact, my system here is trying to show that there's 0 because I have not used order type in my system. So again, my sample database, I apologize. You will probably want that, or at least think about it, whether you want the project to be in there or not. But my sample database, I don't have to have it. So
is a B249.
Okay, and getting a little deeper in here, my main thing I wanted to show here is, as we kind of got into this, is again, this is all just junk, but the main thing is I'm able to take a look at ABC Lighting. That's my architect on here, and I can really look at the orders. And if I like what I'm seeing and I just want to create a report out of that, again, I just show no totals or totals only, and then I'll just basically, actually I'll just do that print preview there. And at that point, I should get just the totals by each one of the specifiers. Okay. Now, again, I'm getting some zeros in there because it is wanting to adjust values. Since I don't use influence on there, and if you know what that is, you'll just uncheck adjust values, and it shows basically the total of the entire project, or the entire order. In this case, it's on there. There's my values. Okay. All right, real basic stuff. Let me shift gears again a little bit. And again, back over in this 04 dashboard, there we have a lot of new stuff in here. By the way, if it flips back, just go get it. For some reason it keeps going in the background there. It's kind of odd. But the main thing is I created this order summary the same way and give you some ideas. I can go back in and create a tile. And at this point, I'll do an order summary. I can give it a name, but think of this. We can actually go through and do a couple other things in here that's neat. So I can, at the header level, identify it maybe by quoter. I see that happen every once in a blue moon, but sales accounts is where I'm seeing this a lot. So it gives you the ability to identify a tile or one of these little summaries for a certain individual to keep up with, one of the outside sales folks, or a work group for those of you that have multiple territories out there, which is kind of nice. Again, we do have some more line level stuff here as well, based on the release status, hold, partial, or by factory. So you can kind of filter that stuff back. So for right now, just leave that. Actually, I'm just going to go back because that one's already created, and show you the other one that's kind of neat. And I'll show them kind of together. I can create a order summary goal. And we actually use this one here as well. So I actually use all 3 of these tiles. Well, I don't use the win-loss one, but I use the other 2 tiles plus the invoice one we can get into to kind of keep a gauge on how business is running. So in here on the order summary goal, you just put in whatever you want as far as a title, the people you want to identify. And again, you can set an effective period. So we put ours from January 1st to December 31st. Off a sell price, and then what's your goal? Is $1 million, $2 million, whatever the case is, and even a stretch goal. So you can say, hey, if we make the $1 million off of that factory, that's fine, but we'd really like to get to 1.1. So that's our stretch goal of 1.1. And you can filter it back and say, okay, I'm only interested in maybe a salesperson. Have to do that sales account that's on the job. Or I'm only interested in a particular factory because I'm trying to hit a bogey with a factory out there. Okay, whatever that is, that's fine. Once you set it up, so the one I'm about to show you, I put in $1 million on the goal, and I think it's 1.1 on the stretch goal, and I just set it up. It's already set up and ready for me to go. And it's right here. We'll talk about that in a second. They both work very similarly. And let me start with the order summary for a second. And what the first thing it does, and I had a bunch of calls on the first of the year. It's kind of wild because the sales showed, kind of a small number. The week sales showed kind of a nice number, and the month sales showed kind of small because what happened December 1st this year? It was like on Wednesday. So it showed the month sales as being really low and the week sales as being really high because it really goes Sunday to Saturday. And I had a few people call me. It's like, what's going on here? But the main thing it's trying to do here is really trying to give a good gauge on whether you're up or down for that time period and not whether you just have to be counting more or less days. So that's the main thing we're trying to solve here. So today it's going to find this same day last year in the same day of the week. So it's going to be the same week, but the same day. Today is Tuesday. So it's going to find Tuesday, same week last year and compare this Tuesday to that Tuesday as opposed to whatever, a Saturday or something like that. That'd be, hey, we're doing really great, but really you're off because you're comparing to Saturday. And the same thing for a week. We're going to take this week, this year and compare it to last week, last year. So it's going to be essentially I think I don't remember. Sorry, it's whatever week number it is for the year. And it's going to be from Sunday to Saturday and do the same comparison. Again, we just don't want to crash into maybe a major holiday last year and not one this year. And then the month, we're going to count the entire month from day one of the month through the end of the month, comparing both to both. And that gets our February's compared to February's and our March's compared to March's and so forth. Okay. But once I click into one, this is what I like about it. And again, I use this one on my phone. So when I look at this, it's kind of hard for me to look at because it's all tabular and everything like that. But it does a lot of the same things. I can take a look at the sales counts and find out who's actually adding up to that, the money that's coming in or showing this week for the month. And by the way, I flip this back to a week or today. That's what's going on up here. And again, I'm up for the previous time period. And then it shows the various transactions. So it's kind of nice. I can click into the actual transaction and look at it. So might as well do that real quick. And it gives me a little bit of a view of what's going on in a particular PO. So, and we have, go by CSR, customer or quoters and everything like that. Show you real quick what it looks like on the web. Just curiosity here. It's going to this month. And here's the reason why I like it up here is now I can flip by factory and flip it over by customer. It has the same data in there. It's just easier to look at, I think. And you can do some of the same thing. I can go in and take a look at Zora distribution, whatever. Come with some funny names here. Now I've locked in on that one distributor. Then I can go back over and take a look by manufacturer, whatever it is I need to do. So that's what they're buying. Those two made up names there. That's kind of cool. All right. So that's the That's the order summary details. And again, the other thing that we have a lot of folks really trying to get to more than anything else at the end of the year. And this has been kind of this has been a nice year because we're starting to see people actually using these gold tiles. And so far they work pretty good. But the main thing is I can see where I'm at. So right now I can tell I'm off. I'm basically, it's much easier on the web, but I'm 85% of 100% on that thing. So I'm 85% of the way through the year. No, 90. Yeah. Let me go back over here. I like it better. But on here, I can take a look. Go back. And I'm 95% of the way through the year, and that's what it's trying to show here. 0% to 100%. That's we still have a little bit of the year left. We're 95% of the way through the year, but we've only made 87% of our goal. So we're probably going to miss it, is what it's really trying to tell us there. And again, if you click into it, web or GUI, whatever, web's going to look a little nicer. It's kind of the same thing as the order summary. It just allows you to drill in, but it shows you exactly the amount of the sales, shows you basically, what your goal was and then what the stretch was. Just some nice little tools out there. But like I said, now that people have kind of been through one cycle of using these, we're starting to see them split it up a little bit and say, okay, well, what's our bogey going to be with a certain manufacturer, whether it's going to be for a certain salesperson, what's kind of their goal for the year. So some things to think about out there. All right, that works pretty good there. And by the way, this is starting to replace the goal thing is replacing the old goal system that we had in Oasis. it probably won't go away. You go to manufacturer, set up goals, but this is by far better. Even if you just use it in GUI mode, because you can take a look at everything that added up to that goal and drill into a little bit, as opposed to, just seeing a number that's printed on a report out there. So better, and we're going to adjust it or improve it from there. Okay. All right, so that takes us on the order side. As far as invoices go, and I'm going to show you a couple other neat ones here. When I get into invoices, we have, and again, think about this for a second. The first thing that we have inside of Oasis is, or one conversation I get a lot of is, how close are we to getting the actual goal for the factory? And it's based upon what they shipped in some cases, as opposed to what the order is, and have the same conversation at the same numbers that the factory has, or closer numbers. And that requires invoices be placed inside of Oasis. We really cannot do it off of shipments. But what's nice is we do have the customizable invoice summary reports. And again, you can take a look at this for the entire year. So anchor month is January. And again, one reason why we did the anchor month here is it does allow you to shift it a little bit, because it's going to count 12 months from that month. So I could actually go back to August of 2020 if I needed to, because of fiscal reasons. So let me run this by manufacturer, because that's probably the most common one that I see anyway. And again, you can run it by parent manufacturer. Won't matter in this database. But again, you can pull your conglomerate or your other conglomerates together into one entry if you like. Or you can go by manufacturer if you want. Then just hit update. So each section has its own summary report, quote, order, and invoice, and payments even has a summary as well. And what I'm finding is a lot of folks really end up running these at the end of the year just to really get a feel for what's going on. And the graphs are kind of neat. But the main thing is it gives you a little bit of what's going on as far as each factory and how they've been doing over that time frame. The only difference between this and my order summary report is now I'm taking a look at numbers that the factory should be able to identify, assuming you're placing invoices inside of Oasis. So hopefully for the year, 320,000, that should be the same one that the factory has. And what that means as far as your bonus programs and everything like that's again a deeper conversation you have to have. There you go. Invoice summary. There is also the ability to do month and monthly. I don't see too many people doing that. Basically where it compares a month like January to the prior January. But usually what I'm getting is people just trying to run summaries against invoices, just so they can see if they hit that bogey and they're going to get the bonus commission at the year, or should have gotten the bonus commission, because that's usually the conversation I have is like, we think we made it. How can we prove it? And again, you can run this. The next conversation obviously would be, hey, we think we made it. How do we prove it? So that goes back to the, again, let's say it's lighting manufacturer. That's the one we're going to go with. And I'll be in invoices here. I'll go to reports, customizable invoice listing. I'll select for this year, and I'll go into parties and I'll select for the manufacturer, lighting manufacturer, wherever they're at. And this would be my way of proving to the factory, hey, we made it. What happened here? And I'll go ahead and print this to PDF. And it should show every invoice that they sent me and I put in the system. And they should be able to take a look at the by invoice number, what's going on. Again, these are bogus PO numbers, but the main thing is it gives me all the data here. I should be able to present them and prove that I got it or not. So I haven't done that this year, but usually I have someone call up that's usually crosswise with the manufacturer saying, hey, we made it, and they're trying to get the extra money. Okay, so that's invoices. Payments. Not too much into year if you've been doing commission for accounts, but you have kind of the same thing here. You can go in and do, your basic, customizable payment listing, and actually the invoice. That's it. Customizable payment listing, which is kind of nice out there. Just seeing the totals out there. Okay, wanted to go one more step on the accounting side, because this one's kind of new, but it's one that we're finding is important out there. And what it is it gives us capability of taking a look at anything that you have outstanding invoice-wise, because at the end of the year, we're doing a lot of cleanup stuff as well, as far as trying to make sure that we got all the money in that we're supposed to get. and sending out the nasty notes for folks that are out there. And the catch has always been is if the factory doesn't give you invoices. So we have a bit of a solution for that, but you'll have to call up here to kind of get it turned on because it is fairly new. But if I go in under the 04 dashboard, okay, and what I'll do is go to invoices. In here, there's a little report called Pat Aging, okay, and this is a new one. And I already ran it for this. And what you're looking for here is it's going to show you all the payments that come in, which is nice. And what you should not see for any of the factories or anything on the invoice or order side. As you can see, I have some invoices here. And I have some orders over here on this one. And here's what's going on. The system is taking a look at the way you normally get paid by each one of these factories. So how long it takes them to ship something is part of the invoice, the order side. How long it takes for that invoice to get paid, that's part of the system as well. And it's just some statistics, and some people call it machine learning or whatever. So yeah, nifty. But what we're using this report for is starting to guide folks, especially on the accounting side. And like I said, I see some folks over here that are on the accounting side, is how do you go out and get those factories they're basically sitting on invoices to give you money because they've already gotten paid, and you can, ask people to, get you the documentation to confirm it. Fixture hanging in the ceiling in museums, good indicator that it shipped. And you start asking the questions to get paid. But the main thing here is it thinks, again, this is pretty late in the year, so this one's probably okay. But let's assume that this $8,000 or $500 here that we should have gotten paid was actually over here in January. And they're basically they're sitting on the invoice for some reason. Maybe they're not getting paid or whatever. What you can do is click into this, and what it will do is it's going to show you the details on here. Now, what's happening here is this one, the system thinks I should have gotten paid for this month. Now, what it's trying to show, if you click into it, that, maybe it was released back in January and assume that it's going to ship in June or whatever, and then you get paid several months later. It'll figure all that out, but it's really trying to give you a little bit of information on anything that is out there. Now, it could be wrong. That's a possibility. But we're finding it's pretty right most of the time. In other words, it's fairly correct. And it gives you basically the information you need to at least look up some of these orders that the system thinks you should have been paid on. And the invoices are pretty easy. I mean, usually it's a stopwatch from, when you get paid on all those. So anyway, that's kind of the bonus report I wanted to show folks. And it really helps anybody who's trying to chase the money, give you a little bit of a leading edge on it and say, hey, there's some orders out here from back in January. It looks like we should have got paid on. Can somebody, just find out what's going on? And what we're finding is it's either the data wasn't put in Oasis, it's a weird order that happens out there, or somebody really is sitting on the money because the distributor's not paying or whatever, and it gets the sales force out there asking questions. So you get paid, and you don't have to write that money off because it goes past some time frame out there. So, all right, I have 5 minutes, and I've taken a lot of time. How long is Miss Simpson, sorry. How long does it take for a new win-loss tile typically to calculate after being created? If you don't see that win-loss tile, by the next morning, you need to let us know because something's not set up right. So that was the question Brad had. It looks like he had to jump, but yeah, usually win-loss tiles take, and it's going to depend upon your database. So I'm not sure where Brad works for, but I do know at least one of the groups that's on here has a fairly large database, and it might take a couple hours for it to recalculate. But the win-loss tiles, by the next morning should recalculate. So, any other questions for me? There are a lot more reports like this one that we're generating and hoping to create over the next few years. You could do, with all the new development we have out there. So stay tuned to the report side. We hit the pause button for a little bit, minus this one and a couple others that we're working on. But the main thing is this is one area that to come back with. To plant a seed for those of you that really want to get aggressive is, especially with all the new stuff we have out there, we do have some folks that will have Oasis dump into Power BI, which is a whole nother area that we can talk about at some point. But if you have any question on that, other reports in Oasis, or just how to make sure all the data is correct, just give us a buzz, drop us a note, and we'll be out here. So I can run a 3-year overview for sales account by parent man. A 3-year overview. And Eileen, I think it's down to you and me. I think you're talking about, I would do, those are 2, 3 years. And then parent manufacturer. Usually, let me see, columns, I go by year. So the key on this one, and I think you're talking orders, yeah, sales, 4 sales accounts. Okay. For sales account by parent manufacturer, that you'd probably have to do, you have to pick it, because we're 2-dimensional, you have to pick which column or row you want on there. So if you want it to be, I could do it here, but I have to select each sales account independently, run it multiple times. But another way of doing that is go to orders, reports. I would go order listing because I can do the total thing. Selection and 3 years. Do we have yearly? No, we don't. You'd have to pick 1 year at a time. So the quick answer is I could do by sales count or manufacturer. I can't do both for 3, a year over year on there. So that's the answer, Eileen. Unfortunately, it's kind of tough to do that. Give you a little bit of a hint. I've had people throw stuff in Power BI and go do some really cool stuff like that. But that's a whole different conversation. So sorry, I can't answer your question more directly on that one. Here, if I had to do that though, I would go in and select one person at a time. So now I've selected one person. I'm a parent manufacturer and I have year. And that's the problem, is I can go by manufacturer and year. But as soon as I do that, I have to do one at a time because it's a 2-dimensional page. Is the problem. Any other questions? All right. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please let us know. Talk to y'all later.